Operating procedures. The purpose of these procedures is to establish a standard operating procedure aboard all CEAC outsourcing vessels. Following these procedures will result in uniform and consistent work practices which help to safeguard crew members, equipment and the environment. The following areas will be covered: navigation, change of watch, main engine shutdown, vessel security, vessel log, communication, pipe color coding, operator incapacitation, required documentation on board, fuel transfer procedure, and equipment maintenance schedule. Navigation. The vessel captain or wheelhouse person on watch must navigate the vessel in a safe and prudent manner. The following must be followed. 1. Complying with all applicable Maritime Authority of Jamaica laws. 2. Planning and carrying out orders received from the CEAC Outsourcing dispatcher and reporting any variances or discrepancies to the dispatcher. 3. Ensuring that the necessary information and documentation is located in the wheelhouse of the vessel and maintained in an orderly manner. Required information includes the following: navigation charts or maps for the area to be transited, fuel transfer procedures, Maritime Authority of Jamaica licenses for the vessel of wheelhouse personnel, and compass deviation chart. 4. Ensuring that the vessel and tow are suitable for the waterway to be transited and expected operating conditions. To be considered suitable, the vessel must maintain appropriate draft, trim and dimensions for the intended waterway, be staunch, tight and seaworthy, and have appropriate lines, wires, and fittings for the tow configuration to be used. 5. Contacting the CEAC Outsourcing dispatcher for an assist tug to help navigate when conditions may endanger the safety of the tow, its cargo, or the vessel crew. 6. Checking Maritime Authority of Jamaica information radio broadcast regularly for relevant navigation information. 7. Maintaining in proper order the vessel's installed navigation equipment including VHF FM radio and backup, radars, compass, swing indicator, searchlights, horn, and horn light, and navigation lights. 8. Using the judgment of a prudent mariner and stopping operations when conditions dictate. Such conditions may include, but are not limited to, the following: limited visibility, severe weather, strong currents at docks or bridges, traffic restrictions, lack of required crew and mechanical problems or failure. 9. Observing the CEAC Outsourcing lookout policy. Change of watch. 24-hour watches must change at 0600, 1200, 1800, and 2400 hours unless otherwise agreed in advance. The change of watch must be postponed if it occurs during a critical stage of vessel operation, and a record must be maintained in the daily boat log. Wheelhouse personnel vessel underway. The wheelhouse person on duty must exchange with the relief person coming on duty information including, but not limited to, performance of the vessel, its engines, steering system, pumps, generators, and other critical machinery. Location and direction of the vessel, including traffic in the area and whether the tow is overtaking or being overtaken. Work instructions or duties in progress of the crew. Status of routine boat call to the dispatcher. Orders or information received from the dispatcher. And any tide, current, and weather conditions. Wheelhouse personnel vessel not underway. The wheelhouse person on duty must exchange with relief person coming on duty information including, but not limited to, the following: status of the current operation, last contact with the dispatcher, information vital to the dispatcher, state of the transfer, if in progress, including performance of the pump engine, or other transfer equipment, and time of last contact with the dock person in charge. Main engine shutdown during delays. While awaiting locks, during fog delays, or when loading or discharging barges, shut down at least one engine. 2. If safety conditions allow, in an effort to conserve fuel and reduce cost. Engine shutdown periods are prime time for the deckhand to make engine inspections to discover and correct potential problems and to perform routine maintenance. During extended delays, engines should be restarted every 12 hours and brought to operating temperature to check equipment, with particular attention to the main engine lube oil levels and their starters. Report any discrepancies immediately to dispatch. Vessel security. Persons other than employees, customer representatives, and government officials, or authorized service personnel are not allowed on board CEAC outsourcing vessels without prior authorization. It is the responsibility of the master to ensure that no unauthorized visitors board the vessel at any time. Authorization for outside personnel to come aboard a CEAC outsourcing vessel must be requested by the master from the operations manager before allowing visitors on board. No solicitation of any kind is allowed on board a CEAC outsourcing vessel. All solicitations must be directed to the operations manager. Changing of personnel other than vessel crew members. When a non-crew member is given authorization to board a CEAC outsourcing vessel, the crew must ensure that the following procedures are carried out prior to departure, or immediately upon visitors boarding. All newly embarked personnel must be mustered in the wheelhouse and logged onto the vessel. All personnel must be issued a life jacket if they do not have one, and instructed in its use. All personnel must be assigned emergency stations and instructed in the procedures and signals to be used on the vessel in the event of an emergency. And, upon arrival at the vessel's destination, non-crew members are to be checked off prior to disembarking. Vessel log. It is extremely important that the entries regarding accidents be completed, regardless of how trivial an incident may seem at the time. The log must contain a true and accurate record of the event. Each CEAC outsourcing vessel must maintain an official log. The following guidelines for maintaining the log must be adhered to. The log must be kept daily, accurately, and legibly. The log must be retained aboard the vessel for the period of 1 year. Log entries, properly dated, must be made as soon as possible after the occurrence for which the entry is made. No errors or erasures should be made in the log. Any incorrect statements must be corrected by drawing a single line through the entry and initialing it. And the log must be returned to CEAC outsourcing after every crew change, and the yellow copy stays aboard the vessel. The following information is required to be entered into CEAC Outsourcing Company Limited Logbook. Details of all required monthly fire, boat, man overboard, abandoned ship, damage control, and vessel response plan drills. Details of steering gear, navigation equipment and communications gear tests conducted prior to departure from the port. Results of weekly and monthly testing of emergency lighting and power systems. Fuel and lube oil data, including the amount of fuel or lube oil transferred to or from the other vessel. Offenses by and/or disciplinary actions against crew members, including a statement concerning the notification of such an entry to the crew member. The nature of any illness suffered by a crew member, including the medical treatment administered and all the name of the individual who administered it. Any personal injuries reported, whether to a crew member or another individual aboard the vessel. Where there are no injuries, make the notation. The name of every crew member who ceases to be a member of the crew other than by death, with the place, time, manner, and cause of the departure. Report of any death and cause of death. Report of any collision, stranding or grounding. Search for contrabands or stowaways. The number and description of any non-crew members carried on board the vessel. General condition of the vessel and its equipment. Intermittent operations such as drops or additions or barges, standby time, hire of tug, and change of river segment. along with the notations as to where, by whose orders, and for what the purpose these operations were undertaken. A complete list of vessel crew members, including their jobs, ratings and/or license. Crew change times, and a list of persons relieved and coming on duty. Brief description of equipment and supplies received and any damage to these items that may have occurred. Report of any vessel damage. Notation of any machinery or equipment not properly working, and all repairs undertaken. Notation of any repair work undertaken by an outside contractor along with any tickets or invoices. Any purchases of fuel and lube made for the vessel, including the name of the vendor. Any rope, hawser or wires broken during the day's operations. Weather conditions affecting the navigation. Navigation time, including geographic departure point and arrival point, and the reason for trip, deliver cargo, receive cargo, etc. Details of crew safety meetings. Times of any delays, groundings, Coast Guard boardings, traffic, lock closures, etc. In the event of abandoning ship, the logbook should be taken from the vessel. Vessel-to-office communication. The following information should be transmitted to CEAC Outsourcing Dispatch Office between 0700 and 0730 hours each day. Vessel position at 0700 hours. Amount of onboard fuel at 0700 hours. List of events other than normal vessel operations. Number and description of all the delays encountered within the last 24 hours. All fuel taken on the boat. All lube oil taken on the boat. All pickups and drop-offs within the last 24 hours. All crew changes within the last 24 hours. Any safety meetings held. And any safety drills held. The following should be done monthly. Record sheets for drills and safety meetings must be sent in after crew changes to CEAC Outsourcing. Each boat is required to hold at least one safety meeting and one drill each month. All safety meetings and drills should be recorded in the vessel log. Vessel-to-office communication. The following procedure must be followed in each event below. Accident or injury. Any accident must be reported to the main office immediately, followed by a CEAC Outsourcing accident report form. Regardless of how minor the accident, this report is needed so that we can answer any questions about the accident. Make sure that you send the front and back of each report form and mail the original to CEAC Outsourcing office as soon as possible. This applies to all personal injury reports as well as vessel accidents. Barge discrepancy. When making a pickup from a fleet, terminal, or another boat, report any barge discrepancies, such as damage to the hull, etc., and complete a barge condition report. Submit the barge condition report to CEAC Outsourcing office. Delay en route. Report to the office when vessel is stopped due to weather, traffic or other unexpected delay. Vessel discrepancy. Report to the office any vessel discrepancies that need repair or that may affect the operation of the vessel. Safety discrepancy. Immediately report any discrepancy that affects the vessel's safety equipment or the safety of the crew. Navigational aids. Report any discrepancies to CEAC Outsourcing and to the Coast Guard. Vessel-to-vessel communications. Communication between vessels on the single sideband radio must be limited to company business or transmission of safety-related data. Communications of a casual nature between vessels must be conducted on the VHF-FM radio on the authorized frequencies. Law does not allow profanity. The call sign of the vessel must be given upon beginning and ending all communication, as well as every 5 minutes of conversation. Pipe color coding. The purpose of this procedure is to describe a uniform color coding system to identify piping aboard an operating vessel. When painting piping, it is only necessary to color code the valves and piping on either side or a periodic strip to aid in identification as you follow it. It is also required to paint the pipe with the appropriate color as it goes to and from bulkhead. The following colors will identify the following piping: oil lines, orange, fuel lines, yellow, bilge, black, fire, red, toilet/shower water, gray, salt water intake, green, fresh water, blue, airlines, white, hydraulic lines, brown. Operator incapacitation. In the event the wheelman on watch becomes incapacitated, the crew member that discovers the emergency shall take the following actions: sound the general alarm, take control of the vessel, reduce power and maintain steerage, attempt to ascertain and avoid any immediate navigational hazards, if none, administer first aid to the incapacitated crew member, and, when relieved by a licensed officer, assist in administering first aid to the incapacitated crew member. If there is no other licensed officer on board, the crew member who discovers the emergency should, in addition to the actions listed before, call vessel traffic on appropriate local channel or use the emergency channel 16 and advise the Coast Guard of the emergency situation. Provide the following information: Pan. This is the motor vessel Sea Mover. This is an emergency. I am the engineer/deckhand on board. I am at, give a geographic location or read the position from the GPS with a loaded/empty oil/cargo barge and the captain is incapacitated. Request that you advise vessels in my vicinity and I request assistance from any vessel available immediately. Call 119 or the Jamaican Coast Guard for emergency medical services and continue to render first aid as appropriate. Call the responsible towing company office using the emergency notification procedure. All vessel documents must be current, in date, and maintained in the wheelhouse for review where possible. The following vessel-related documents must be kept on board CEAC Outsourcing vessels at all times: Coast Guard Certificate of Documentation, MARPOL placards posted at galley and at all vessel exits, fuel transfer procedures, skiff registration sticker, copy of navigation rules, updated navigation charts or maps for areas of operation, updated light lists for areas of operation, International Load Line Certificate if required, survey for assignment of load of lines if required, Certificate of Financial Responsibility if required, Certificate of Classification if applicable, Certificate of Inspection for passenger carriage if applicable. The following is a list of forms used aboard all CEAC Outsourcing vessels: vessel logs, radio logs, engine room logs, barge condition and damage reports, tow diagram, fuel report, personal injury report, vessel accident report, towboat operations deck log, grocery order forms, barge check sheet for cargo transfer preparation, and barge safety inspection forms. Fuel transfer procedures. The following fuel transfer procedures must be followed at all time. Gauge all fuel tanks and ensure an accurate starting inventory. Set valves for the tanks to be filled. Ensure that the vents for all the tanks to be pumped out or loaded are clear and fitted with flame screens. Ensure the drip containers are in place at all hose connections and vents. Inform the captain that the fuel transfer will begin. Monitor the liquid level in the tanks constantly during the loading. Do not fill the tanks beyond 90% of the total tank capacity. After loading or discharge is complete and the pumps are secured, secure all valves. Disconnect hoses and refit hose caps or blind flanges. Gauge all fuel tanks and obtain accurate ending inventory. Log the amount of fuel received or transferred. Notify the captain that the fuel transfer is complete. The persons in charge of transfer operations on the receiving vessel and transferring facility or vessel must hold conference prior to each transfer and agree upon the following: transfer rate, sequence of transfer operations, emergency procedures, discharge containment procedures, discharge reporting procedures, and transfer shutdown procedures. Each person in charge must fill out the declaration of inspection form prior to each transfer. Equipment maintenance schedule. The following equipment must be checked daily: main engine lube oil, generator lube oil, gear lube oil, day tank levels, fuel tank sump, water pumps, fuel, lube and water lines, compress air moisture, water temperature, lube oil temperature, fuel pressure, hydraulic oil, and gear oil pressure. The following equipment must be checked weekly: grease routine, air filters and hoses, battery and constavolt, throttle/clutch, drive belts, air compressor strainer, water inhibitor, exhaust leaks, hydraulic lines, and airbox drains. The following items are time interval maintenance equipment items and are scheduled by calculating engine hours elapsed. Main engine oil and filter change, 200 hours. Main engine fuel filter change, drop in RPMs or 1000 hours. Generator oil and filter change, 200 hours. Generator fuel filter change, drop in RPMs or 1000 hours. Service air cleaner, if applicable. Marine gear oil and filter change. Main engine vibration damper. Fire equipment survey. Safety equipment survey. Life preserver survey. Engine alarm survey. Vessel document survey. Fire extinguisher recharge. And heat exchanger zincs replaced. Conclusion. Following these operating procedures will result in uniform and consistent work practices which help to safeguard crew members, equipment and the environment. It is therefore your responsibility to ensure that all procedures are adhered to.